Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're journeying back quite a way, actually, into ancient history.
We are indeed.
We're looking at the biblical book of 1 Samuel, chapter 8. A really pivotal moment, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It captures this fundamental shift in how a whole society decided it wanted to be governed.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're looking at this point where the people of Israel, they go to their leader, Samuel.
Who was a prophet and a judge, remember?
Right. And they make this request, a huge one, really.
They want a king. Simple as that on the surface.
But it's anything but simple when you dig into it.
Exactly. The reasons why they wanted one, Samuel's reaction, the warnings,
Mm-hmm.
it all has these, well, remarkably timeless lessons packed in.
So the core request is, give us a king. But we need the context, don't we? What's happening right then?
Right. Well, Samuel, he's getting old. That's the first thing the elders mention.
And he'd appointed his sons as judges.
He had Joel and Abiah down at Beersheba.
Yeah.
But the sources are very clear on this.
They weren't following his example.
Not at all. They were, well, corrupt, taking bribes, twisting justice, driven by greed.
And that's the immediate backdrop. This failure of leadership right below Samuel.
Precisely. You can imagine the discontent when the justice system itself is crooked.
People lose faith. They start looking for alternatives.
And that's the spark, really. This leadership void created by his sons.
So that's our goal here, isn't it, for this deep dive? To understand why they wanted a king, how Samuel felt about it.
Uh-huh. And the warnings. We have to talk about the warnings God gives through Samuel.
Yes. And what this ancient story might still tell us today. About leadership, societal pressures, the consequences of our choices.
We want to get into the motivations, the potential pitfalls laid out right there in the text.
Okay, so let's start with that catalyst. The failure of Samuel's sons.
Right. Joel and Abiah, they had important jobs, judges.
But they completely abused that trust, didn't they? The language used is quite strong.
It is. Driven by personal gain, perverting justice. It sounds like a fundamental betrayal.
Makes you wonder what day-to-day life was like dealing with that kind of system.
Well, the analysis suggests deep instability, unfairness. When the courts are compromised, people look for order elsewhere.
A timeless problem, really. Corruption undermining trust.
It always starts at the top or near the top and poisons everything.
So the alternative they land on is a king. The elders go to Samuel.
In Ramah, yes. And they're direct.
You're old, your sons aren't walking in your ways. Appoint a king over us.
And then that crucial bit.
Such as all the other nations have. That really jumps out.
It does. It suggests it's not just about fixing the corruption problem.
It's about fitting in. Being like everyone else.
That seems to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
And Samuel, he's not happy.
Understandably, he takes it personally.
Well, the text says he was displeased, but then God clarifies it for him. Samuel prays about it first.
Right. And what's God's take on this? It's quite revealing.
It is. God tells Samuel essentially, don't take it personally. They aren't rejecting you.
They've rejected me as their king. That's a powerful statement.
It reframes the whole thing. God sees it as them wanting a human ruler, like the neighbors, instead of his direct, maybe less visible kingship.
And he connects it to their history.
He does. He reminds Samuel, look, they've been turning away since Egypt, chasing other gods. This is sort of part of that pattern.
So it's not just a reaction to Joel and Abiah's corruption, but maybe a deeper desire to be ordinary, governed like everyone else.
That seems to be the interpretation here. This desire for the familiar, the conventional, potentially leading them away from something unique.
Okay, so God understands the request, even sees it as a rejection of him. But he doesn't just say no.
No, he tells Samuel to listen to them. But first, warn them.
Solemnly warn them.
A text. Yes, warn them about the manner of the king who will rule them. And it's not a vague warning.
No, it's incredibly specific, isn't it? A whole list of burdens.
A detailed and pretty grim forecast of what monarchy will actually mean for their daily lives.
So what's on the list? Let's break it down. First up, military conscription.
Yes. He says the king will take their sons, for his chariots, his horsemen, to run ahead of his chariots.
Sounds like building a professional army.
And his officers, too. Commanders of thousands and fifties. It's a militarized society he's describing.
And it's not just fighting, forced labor, too.
Oh, yes. Their sons will plow his ground, reap his harvest, make his weapons and chariot equipment.
And their daughters?
Taken as perfumers, cooks, bakers, serving the royal household. A loss of personal freedom there.
Then the economic hit. This sounds severe.
It does. The king will take the best of their fields, vineyards, olive groves.
And just give them away.
To his officials and servants, yes. It's patronage benefiting the king's inner circle.
And taxes on top of that.
A tenth, a tithe of their grain and wine for his officers and servants.
So resources flowing upwards, concentrating wealth and power.
Definitely. And he'll take their servants, their best young men, their donkeys, for his work.
It sounds like a complete shift in who owns what, who controls what.
And Samuel sums it up starkly. You yourselves will become his slaves, or servants, depending on the translation, but the meaning is heavy.
Wow, that's blunt.
And then the final, chilling part of the warning.
Right. When this all happens, when you cry out because the king you chose,
The Lord will not answer you in that day. A sense of finality, a consequence of their choice.
so you've got this incredibly detailed, quite negative picture painted for them. How do they possibly react?
They ignore it
Well,
completely. They
like,
refuse to listen.
After all that,
Yep. The text says, but the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel. They just doubled down.
what did they say?
No, but we will have a king over us,
That we also may be like all the nations. There it is again.
and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.
So the desire to fit in and maybe wanting that visible military leader
Yeah,
that overrides everything, all the warning.
it seems so. That pull to be like everyone else combined with maybe a desire for a strongman figurehead for security, it was stronger than the fear of the consequences.
It's a powerful lesson about peer pressure, even on a national scale.
Absolutely. They're focused on the external image, the structure, mirroring their neighbors, even at potentially great personal cost.
So Samuel, presumably a bit exasperated by now, takes this back to God.
He relays their words, their stubborn insistence.
And God's response.
Heed their voice and make them a king.
He just agrees.
He allows it. It's a profound moment, really, an acknowledgement of their free will, even though he knows and has warned them it's not the best path.
It's like saying, okay, you've been warned. You know the risks. If this is what you truly want.
I won't force you. God respects their choice, their agency.
So Samuel then tells the men of Israel basically, go home for now.
Right. Go back to your cities. Presumably, the process of finding and anointing this king will start soon.
Okay, let's step back and think about the lessons here.
Moving
What
on.
resonates today? That failure of Samuel's sons.
It's a constant reminder, isn't it? Corruption in leadership, it just eats away at trust. In government, business, anywhere, integrity is non-negotiable.
And that desire to be like all the nations. The conformity pressure.
Oh, that's everywhere. Social media, keeping up with the Joneses, political trends. This story is a huge caution against giving up core values just to fit in.
What about rejecting that unique relationship they had with God for something more conventional?
Maybe today the parallel is, I don't know, blindly trusting human systems or popular opinion without considering deeper ethical or spiritual guidance, placing all faith in the tangible.
And the cost of choices. Samuel's warning makes it so clear.
Exactly. Decisions, especially ones made out of fear or impatience, they have real long-term consequences. We need to think beyond the immediate.
But then there's God allowing it, respecting their free will.
Yeah, that's powerful too. It suggests we often learn best by, well, living with the results of our choices, even the mistakes. Experience as a teacher.
So thinking about modern parallels, it all feels very relevant.
Absolutely. The need for accountable leaders, resisting social pressure, balancing trust in institutions with, higher principles.
Understanding the long-term impact of what we decide.
It's all there. This ancient story still speaks volumes about the human condition, doesn't it?
It really does. So, wrapping up our look at 1 Samuel 8. We've seen this major turning point, driven by leadership failure, that powerful urge to conform,
And ultimately a rejection of their current system of divine guidance in favor of a human king.
It really highlights the serious consequences that can arise when people prioritize, maybe, the familiar or the conventional, even when they've been warned about the potential downsides.
It really lays it bare. Which leads us to a final thought, maybe something for our listeners to mull over.
Yeah.
Well, reflecting on that strong desire the Israelites had to be like all the nations, where do we see that pressure today? In our own lives or in society?
That pressure to conform.
Exactly. And what unique values or principles might we, perhaps without even realizing it, be compromising or risking in that pursuit?
Thinking about that balance between wanting to belong, wanting security in what everyone else is doing.
And staying true to something deeper, maybe less tangible, even if it means standing apart from the crowd. It's a tension we still live with, isn't it?